I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage in Southern California. So today, what we're going to do, we're going to be focused on a Silver Shadow. This is a 73 Silver Shadow with, I think, 3,200 miles. No, sorry, it is now up to 4,800 miles. It's almost worn out. So this is a pretty rare car to have that low mileage. We're going to do a service.
Ronnie, this is Craig Bergner. When you were checking the lights, you didn't check the backup lights or the brake lights. I was just wondering how you do that.
The way I do that is you can do it while it's running with another person, or you can do it later. Typically, when I do a Silver Shadow, I will bleed the brakes. We're not going to do that today. There's another video that covers that, but I will put the brake pedal stand on. The brakes will be on, so I can, and then I put it in reverse, and then, you know, when it's in the air, you go back and you look for that. Other than that, your car, particularly Craig, you got to have the ignition on, and you have to put it in reverse, and there's a switch. It should turn on your reverse lights. Brakes, you can stick a stick on the brake pedal, and the ignition has to be on that also. Same with this. This is the tool. Now I'm going to wait on this only because the Silver Shadow in the back has these axles that are supposed to have oil in them. And during the service, we're gonna top these off. But what happens is that oil doesn't leak out, but it'll push into the differential. So almost every Silver Shadow that you pull this off to check the level's only supposed to come up to there. As soon as it stops dripping up there, I'm gonna do it right now, actually. I will put the drain plug back in here. Get my tool back. Stop moving around so much. There is an aluminum washer on there that you can replace if it's all squashed. Oil filter kit usually comes with a new one. You can replace it. Now what we're going to do is going to roll this back, and we'll see. Okay, let's pull this drain plug out, and we'll see if this has been serviced by an experienced Rolls-Royce tech. Ah, see, that one's not overfilled. So that means one of two things. Either somebody has serviced it who knows these cars, or these have never been topped off. And this car, I think, came from Chicago, from a well-known specialist. So I'm going to go with the latter, or the first one. I'm sure that they know what they're doing. So there's that. Oops. Wipe that off. Now let's go ahead and pull the oil filter off and let that drain a while.
What kind of oil is in the differential?
The differential has hypoid gear oil, 80/90 weight is the normal on this. So I'm bringing this light over so we can see the oil filter much better. How's that? Grab my... Go ahead.
Dr. Donald, the bumpers on the U.S. cars changed in 1974. Was it the same or later in Britain?
So one member asked or stated that the bumpers changed in 1974. That is incorrect. The bumpers changed mid-year 1973 for the U.S. market. Rest of the world cars didn't change. I've got a 76 out in the lot right now that has the same kind of bumper. This is a right-hand drive, but yeah. So for the U.S. market, and maybe some other markets, but the U.S. specifically, they had to go with the rubber impact to meet government standards. So what I'm doing here is loosening. There's a center bolt in here till it's long enough to where I can pull that thing out. So what we have here is a canister filter. So this is the filter element. let's replace it. And you use the same canister. We'll let that drain a while. What's the next question?
Ronnie, how much do you examine the oil when it comes out for any clues?
For clues. And I had one client who every oil change, which he did, according to the factory, every 6 months, no matter how many miles, he wanted to send it out and have it tested, looking for metals, contaminants. And then he became seriously alarmed. He says, there's way too much brass in this. Should I be concerned? Do we need to take the engine apart? Now this car, which belongs to one of our members now, is a 1980 Shadow with 30-something thousand miles on it. There's nothing wrong with the engine. These cars, and let me back up one bit. The reason they're worried about those soft metals is the bearings on most cars are made from soft metals. These cars obviously have the same soft metals in the bearings, but it has a brass gear or bronze, I think it's brass, at the front of the engine that runs the oil pump. So it always adds more to the oil. It gets in there. Typically, I just look for water when I drain it. Okay, if you see water come out first, that's not a good sign, because the water will be at the bottom of the oil pan always. Oil floats on water. That's why we have the Valdez and all those other things where, fortunately, the oil floats to the top so you can clean it off. But if there's water in the bottom of the crankcase, then that could indicate an internal leak or the fact that there's a lot of condensation on a car that's been sitting for a long time. You look for sparkles. Sparkles are not good. That means that there are metal bits in there. I usually see the gray sludge. If it's super clean, that means the car is really well maintained. If it's black, super black, thick, slow, all those kind of things, that means it's definitely due for a service. So I hope that answers that question. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we'll take this over to the solvent tank. So my trusty camera Vanna over here will come over with me. Wait, there's something missing here. Oh, I like it. So let's take this apart here. We'll run the solvent. I'm going to pull this bolt out. Now, I said this was serviced, could have been serviced by an experienced Rolls-Royce tech, but the way this came out is incorrect, just so you know. Yeah, somebody did not do this correct. So now everything's out of here. You can see in there, there's a certain amount of sludge in there. I don't know if you can see that. Not too bad. I will clean that off. So we're not going to worry about it. Was incorrectly fitted. I'm going to clean everything up, and then when I get the new filter, I'll show you the right way to put it back together. There's this little, a lot of people throw this away. There's a little collar, and it usually, the old days, they had a cork adapter, a little cork. This is cork. Yeah, see, it crumbles apart. But this sleeve you want to keep. So we got a washer, a sleeve, a spring, a bolt, and a can. This is what we got to put back together. Here's your filter. Here is the rest of the kit. It should come with 2 seals. This is for the canister. This big fat one goes on the 6-cylinder models, which we won't use. This is the small one. That's what this seals up against on the car. They now have a rubber. Remember that cork piece? That rubber actually goes inside of this. Okay, that fits on there. There's that extra drain plug seal. There's a rubber washer, and then this is called a Dowty seal. So I'm going to wipe this can out on the outside. And here's the proper put together. You take your big long bolt. You take your dowdy seal. As you can see, this has some rubber bonded to it that's thicker than the steel washer, so that compresses, seals it. That goes first. Then you get your can. Then you get the big flat washer. There's a flat rubber washer, and that seals the bottom of the can. Then you take the big flat steel washer, set it on top of that washer, then the spring, then that sleeve with the wide end up, and then this rubber thing. And what happens is, as this compresses, this rubber part fits into that little cone on there and keeps the oil and directs it through the filter rather than around it. So this is ready to put on. You see it's spring loaded. So then you got to put the seal on the car before you try to put that can in. And here we go. This, you kind of stretch it around with your fingers. Of course, it's on camera, so it'll be difficult. So there we go. So it's setting up in there, and I always take the extra step of making sure that it's seated up all the way in there. Okay. So that's up in there. Because remember that seal, this edge right here is going to be sealing against it. It's a narrow edge. So as you put it up in here, I usually push it a little bit and start the bolt. The bolt's holding it right now. And I didn't even tell you guys, but I use a long extension. I'm not doing this on the floor, so I'm lucky. And then I use, I think it's a 7/8 swivel. Yeah. Oops. So what we're going to do is I'm going to see how this thing floats around. You don't want it to go up there and go cockeyed, because you start the car up with oil and it's going to just pour out of there. You want to make sure that as you're going up, you go inside that channel that has the rubber seal. See that? So I usually push it up the last bit, and then I tighten it. Now, I don't have a torque spec for that. It's a feel, but you will feel the rubber compress. If you leave it loose, this was very loose, by the way, and they were lucky it wasn't leaking. If you over tighten it, what's going to happen is that rubber is going to fold around and it's going to leak all over the place.